Hi, today we're going to be having a look at simplifying of surds, particularly focusing on multiplying. Right, so if you want to pause the video now, take down these important notes here, and that way we can spend the rest of the time focusing on what's happening in the maths. Right, so I'm assuming you've done that, we're going to carry on. Now, it's pretty easy to do stuff like square root of 4, which is 2, or the square root of 9, which is 3. Those sorts of questions are quite easy. When it comes to something like the square root of 50, things actually get a little bit more complicated. And to do that, we have to use a special law insert, and that is square root of AB gives us root A times root B. In other words, the square root of A times B, I can basically split that up into square root of A and square root of B. And it works in both directions. Alright, so the first thing here is I need to know my square numbers. I need to know my square numbers backwards. Basically, every square number below 150, sorry, you should have committed to memory. If you haven't, do that before you start surds. It will make your lives a lot easier. So I look at 50 and I think, well, I can't straight away square root that. But I could square root a square number. So if I could turn 50 into square number, say 25, that would be much easier because I could say that square root of 25 is going to be 5. But obviously, root 50 is not 25, it's actually 25 times 2. And now I can actually use my surd law there and just split them. So I can say that's root 25 times the square root of 2. I can easily square root 25, that becomes 5. And I can't square root 2 because it is a surd. I can't represent it as a fraction, that's as simple as it gets. And instead of writing 5 times root 2, I just go 5 root 2. A couple of points here. Always have your square number first, right? Because it helps you in the layout. We don't write root 2 times 5, just like we don't do a times 5, we write 5a. It's just convention for us to do that, right? So having it first, it will help you. I need to also pick out the biggest square number, the largest square number. If I don't pick out the largest square number, my life gets very difficult, and I might end up with incorrect answers. Alright, so for the next one, just a quick reason as to why this works. If I have root 36, for example, so square root of 36. Square root of 36 is obviously 6, but I can apply my rule here, and if I split this up into, say, 9 times 4, so this could be root 9 times root 4, right? Root 9 times root 4, well, root 9 is 3, root 4 is 2. And what's 3 times 2? 6. Right? So splitting this up doesn't change the value of my surd at all. And you can verify that pretty easily with a calculator. By typing in root 5, you'll get 7.0 something, 071. And if you type in 5 root 2, you'll get out the same answer. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try root 200. So I'm going to square root 200. I'm going to apply my rule, look for the biggest square number that goes into this. So in that case, it's going to be 100 times 2, and it's the square root of all of that. So I can say square root of 100 times the square root of 2 gives me 10 times root 2. Now in this case, if I had chosen a different square number, or a different square number to use, let's say I had chosen, instead of 100, let's say I had chosen 25. So I split, instead of splitting into 100 times 2, I split it into 25 times 8. Now that would still get me 200, no problem at all. However, if I split this up, I can get 5 root 8. And you'll notice that root 8 doesn't, or at least the root 8 I can still split up, because root 8 I could then split up into root 4 times root 2. Okay, so it'll be 5 times root 4 times root 2. And root 4 is actually 2. 5 times 2, well, we actually do the working for this. 5 times 2 times root 2, 5 times 2 is 10 root 2. Exactly the same there. Okay, we do one more example. Instead of root 200, let's do root, root 108. Okay, so root 108, if I square rooted 108, or no, square root 100, I can't square root 108, so I'm going to split that into 36 times 3. And it'll take a bit of practice for you to identify your square numbers, the biggest ones, straight away, but keep at it. I can split that into root 36 times root 3, and then I can just go, that's 6 root 3. And at this stage, let's say instead of just root 108, let's say it was square root of 108 times square root of 50. Right, all I would do is I just simply treat this as two separate sums. So root, that's 25 times 2. Split that up, and again I've got a times sign in between here. Root 25 times root 2, and that gives me 5 times root 2. And so in this case now I've just got 6 times 5 times root 3 times root 2. Okay, 6 times 5, that's 30. Root 3 times root 2, I just do the other direction, which is the square root of 3 times 2, which is 6. Okay, and just so you know where these came from, 6 and the 3, there's my 6 and there's my 3. What I've done is I've just rearranged them, and here's my 5 and root 2, my 5 and root 2. Right, that's it for me. If you want any more examples, and perhaps look at some Surds using division, please feel free to have a look elsewhere on YouTube, perhaps at one of my other videos, otherwise have a look on Khan Academy, or perhaps elsewhere on YouTube. That's it for me. Cheers.